So I told you earlier that my hope was that when we're done today, you'll know what I mean when I say believe in growth, okay? And so I approached this morning as if, I hope to be able to do this for 20 years. But if I only had one chance to talk about, to talk to this group of people that's really so important, what would I want to say? And so that's where it's worth it comes from. So it was the fall of 1982. And it was one of those perfect fall days that we sometimes get in Columbus, Ohio. And I was standing on the playground of Worthington Hills Elementary, near where they had painted white lines for the timeout box. Now, I was not in the timeout box, but I was near the timeout box. When Josh Ness, one of my fourth grade classmates at Worthington Hills, came up to me on the playground. And Josh said that he was smart and I was not. And immediately I assessed that Josh was probably correct. See, Josh was an EPP and I was not. But I had no idea what Josh was actually talking about. What in the world is EPP? Is that even a word in the English language? Now, for those of you that don't know, EPP is what we've called our gifted and talented program at the elementary level for a long time in Worthington. So I assessed that Josh was probably correct. There were smart kids like Josh Ness, and then there were kids like me. You see, by my fourth grade year, my first year in Worthington schools, I had already developed a fixed mindset about my abilities in school. Some would say, school's just not Trent's thing. And I would have agreed. It never occurred to me that through hard work and extra practice, I could improve my cognitive ability. So I didn't. I invested in the things that were my things. I was a gym class champion. I could catch a football most of the time, and I could throw a lacrosse ball. School, that was for smart kids like Josh Ness. And so, with that fixed mindset firmly established, I muddled through 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade until I came to Worthington High School. And in those days, 9th graders attended the Kilbourne building, what's now Kilbourne Middle School. And only 10th through 12th graders actually attended the building that we're in today. And so I began at the Kilbourne building in 9th grade, and immediately I was signed up for more challenging coursework than I ever had been before. Well, that was going to be a problem. Because if I couldn't do the coursework, why even invest the effort? So I didn't. I invested my efforts in other things. In 9th grade, I learned to sneak out of school, walk down to the home market, buy a sandwich, and eat lunch on the roof. In 9th grade, I learned leadership skills. Once I led my class in a shared experience. Unfortunately, it wasn't a positive shared experience. So we were in Spanish 1 that 9th grade year, and my teacher was a guy by the name of Juan Benacazar. And when Mr. Benacazar turned his back, we all threw super balls at the wall. Those balls bounced for a very long time. And poor Mr. Benacazar turned many shades of red. And so with that effort, or lack of effort, I finished my 9th grade year with a 1-point-something GPA. And I was off to main campus here at Worthington High School. And so in 10th grade, I came to main campus, and my mom thought it was really important that I take a class called etymology. Mom had been told that if I took etymology, it would help me on the SAT and the ACT. Now, by the way, I took both of those tests 3 times. Much like EPP, I had no idea what etymology meant, right? But when I showed up for class on the first day of etymology, there was an empty seat next to Nicole Van Stein. All of a sudden, etymology was my favorite class. Now, I need you to know that I didn't actually have the courage to talk to Nicole Van Stein. And had Nicole Van Stein talked to me, I probably would have passed out and needed immediate medical attention. But as long as this seating arrangement held, I was going to be on time and ready for etymology. And that's when my life began to change. No, Nicole Van Stein had nothing to do with that, sadly. But in etymology class, I met a teacher named Jan Fish. Mrs. Fish was new to Worthington High School that year, and she treated me differently than most of the other teachers I had ever encountered. See, Mrs. Fish expected me to learn in her class. She offered to help me learn. She reviewed with me what I was needed to learn, but she expected that I could and would learn. Not only that, Mrs. Fish invested in my life outside of school. She would meet myself and other classmates at Dalt's, which was a restaurant at the Worthington Square, and we would talk about etymology and life. Mrs. Fish would attend my athletic contests, and she would talk to me about those contests when we were in class. Sometimes she would talk to me about them in front of Nicole Van Stein. I knew that Mrs. Fish cared about me. And that expectation for learning and that investment in my life, I actually did okay in her class. I think I earned a B-. And as the semester came to an end, she pulled me aside and she asked me to sign up for her advanced composition class the next year. And immediately I thought, advanced composition? That sounds kind of hard. But because she believed in me, I found myself the next year in the basement of this very high school, sitting at an Apple IIe computer, learning that writing was rewriting. And over time, I began to believe, at least a little bit, that I could write. And that belief began to carry over into some of my other classes, and my grades incrementally began to improve. Now, I still graduated from this high school with a 2.6 GPA in the bottom half of my high school class. That should give you some confidence. But I was beginning to believe that I could learn. So I went off from Worthington High School to Taylor University. Famous alumni of Taylor University include Worthington Kilbourne High School's John Sprunger. And so I headed off to Taylor, and I still wasn't sure I could really learn. College work sounded hard, frankly. And so I really only had one goal, and my goal was don't flunk out, right? That was my aspiration, don't flunk out of school. And so at Taylor, I played on the football team, and likely that helped me get into school. And so I began the season as third string on the depth chart. And as fate would have it, both of the guys in front of me tore their ACL. And so midway through my first game my freshman year, I found myself as the starter. And I had a position coach, and my position coach was named Dr. Joe Romine. And Dr. Romine was my coach, and he was also the college athletic director. And he was this tough, gruff guy. Like when he said my name, the only way he could say it was, Bowers! Like that was it. And so I spent the first 4 months on campus trying to avoid him. Like if he went right, I went left. And so we came down to the final game my freshman season. We're playing our arch rival, Anderson University. And we're on Taylor's home field. We're marching towards the south end zone. And I went out to catch a pass, and I was in the end zone. And the ball hit me right in the hands. But I had turned my head to think about my touchdown dance, and I dropped it. Yeah, and I'll never forget, Coach Romine came 30 yards off the sideline to voice his displeasure. And his face was so red that I can't believe he didn't have a stroke. That was 24 years ago. And I remember that face literally like it was yesterday. Like it was yesterday. So the season ended, and you had an evaluation. So you were to sit down with your position coach and your head coach, and they were going to talk to you about the season. And I was an 18-year-old boy. I was feeling really good about myself, like I'd started all year and I hadn't flunked out of school yet. And so I thought, I can't wait to hear the good things they're going to say about me. Like I was excited. So I went to this evaluation conference, and immediately I noticed that Dr. Romine hadn't bothered to show up. And so he wasn't there, but the head coach was there, and Dr. Romine had written like his comments about me on the piece of paper. Like here's, and I was still excited to read what he had to say about me. And this is what it said, and I kid you not, this is everything it said. It said, like, I'm not making this part up. This is exactly what it said. It said, Bowers has very little athletic ability, but he takes coaching well. And I remember the head coach kind of looked at me with kind of like a sheepish look on his face, and he kind of shrugged his shoulders, and he said, keep it up. Right? So that was my big evaluation. And I learned at 18 years old that I probably wasn't as important as I thought I was. And so in those days, the semester ended. And in those days, there were no electronic grades. There was no Infinite Campus. There was really no email or internet that was widely available. And so they would mail your grades to your home. And so for us, that was 790 Ashler Court here in Worthington off Hard Road. So our grades were mailed to home. And I remember, they came in the mail and they were that white kind of thin paper. And they were perforated on 3 sides. And so I remember the day my parents, they very carefully opened the perforation and they folded it up, and the grades were like on the bottom half. I don't know how they did that, but they were on the bottom half. And a smile crossed their face. And literally, my parents danced around the family room like they had won the lottery. See, I had a 2.8 GPA. It was the highest GPA I had ever had. And my parents were more surprised than I was, right? I wasn't going to flunk out of school, or at least not that first semester. So we went back to campus. At Taylor, January is its own term. And so you just take one class in January. And it was early that January term, and I was walking to the Taylor weight room to get a workout in, and I had my all-purple Taylor workout suit on, and I had these really sweet black Nike high tops that I was wearing. And so I'm walking into the Odell Gymnasium, and out of the corner of my eye, through my peripheral vision, I can see Dr. Romine. So immediately I'm like, keep your head down, don't make eye contact, right? Like and I heard his voice, Bowers! And I kind of jumped. And then I looked over, and there he is, and he sees me, and I see him, and of course he did because, he just yelled my name. And so I went over to him, and I'm like, hey, coach, I didn't see you there, And as he did, he just kind of looked at me. And then he said, what were your grades first semester? And I don't know if he knew what my grades were or if he didn't know what my grades were, but in those days he might not have. What were your grades? So I stood up kind of tall, right? I smiled because I was proud. Coach, I had a 2.8 GPA. And he just kind of looked at me. And I remember he grabbed a basketball game program for where he was standing, and he turned it over, and he had one of those little like golf pencils. And he said, what are you taking this semester? So I told him, and he did some math on the back of this program. And then he said something that literally changed my life. And this is what he said. It was really simple. But he said, get an A this term, and you'll have a 3.0 GPA. And he said, never let your GPA get below a 3.0 again. A 3.0? Me? See, while earning a 3.0 GPA would be nothing to most college students, I had never even considered this possible. There were smart kids like Josh Ness, and then there were kids like me. It never occurred to me until Dr. Romine said those words that I could and should aspire to something more. It just never occurred to me. And like Mrs. Fish, over the next 4 years, Dr. Romine invested in my life. I quit trying to avoid him. And he would spend time with me in the Taylor athletic office. And I knew that he cared about me. I knew that he cared about my family. And I knew that he cared about my future. One of the things I want you to know is I didn't go on to earn my doctorate in education because I someday wanted to be the superintendent of Worthington schools. although I'm incredibly blessed to be here. But that's not why I did it. I earned my doctorate in education because my senior year in high school, or my senior year in college, I promised myself I would, because I wanted to be just like Dr. Joe Romine. So Stanford University professor Dr. Carol Dweck wrote the book Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And we passed out 250 copies of this book at our Worth You Learning Leaders Academy back in June. Hopefully you've had a chance to check it out. And in this book, Dr. Dweck explains that there are fixed mindsets and there are growth mindsets. And those with fixed mindsets believe that intelligence is static, that it can't be changed, that you're born with it. And from an early age, I operated with a fixed mindset about my abilities in school. Sadly, most well-intentioned adults cultivated this fixed mindset and likely bought into it themselves. When I came to Worthington High School, Jan Fish looked at me differently. I don't know if that was a conscious decision on her part or not. But I know that she operated from a growth mindset. And a growth mindset believes that intelligence can be developed. I would have to do the work, but she would partner with me. And over time, I began to believe that with the right amount of effort and support, even I could learn. Now, I share my story with you today, partly because it's the story that I know best. Hopefully, it's something that you can relate to. But sadly, I believe that tomorrow morning when kids walk in our doors, we may have literally thousands of students who don't believe that they can do the work at the level necessary that we're asking today, that don't believe that. Jan Fish and Joe Romine changed how I thought about myself. They changed my mindset. And in so doing, I believe they literally changed the trajectory of my life. Now, they're very different people. Mrs. Fish, Dr. Romine, frankly, they could not be more different. But they did several things in common that I think are really important. First, they set high expectations for me. They didn't lower their expectations. Their expectations were high. But they were very clear that they believed I could meet those expectations. And not only did I know they believed I could meet those expectations, I also knew they were going to do everything possible to help me meet those expectations. Like we were a team and we were in this together. Secondly, both Mrs. Fish and Dr. Romine invested in my life. Mrs. Fish at Daltz, Dr. Romine in the athletic office of Taylor University. I knew they cared about me. And because I knew they cared about me, I wanted to do more for them. So I think it's somewhat simple. It's not easy, but simple. It's our job to set high expectations for success. We have to commit as a group to helping every child reach that level of success. And we have to step back and take time to make sure our students know about them, know that we believe in them, and know that we care about them. Every child who attends Worthington schools should know that they have a trusted adult or many trusted adults who believe in their ability to learn and who are vested in their success. Guys, it does not matter what your job classification is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a bus driver like Miss Terry, if you're a teacher like Tina, if you're an administrator like Keith Schlarb, or a custodian like Jimmy Rohrbacher, or someone who works in an office like Kathy Rowe. It's all of our jobs to partner with kids and become a trusted adult, that they know that they believe in them, that we believe in them, and that we care about them. In 2015, families have options. They've got lots of options. They can go to school online. Kids can go to school online. They can go to a parochial school. They can go to another private school. They can go to a tuition-free charter school. We have kids that take university courses, and they can take those university courses on our campus. But I believe Worthington Schools has a lot to offer. I believe we can compete with anybody in the marketplace. But if we want to win the marketplace, I believe the way we do it is a personal approach. See, I believe without question that families will continue to choose Worthington as their educational provider because they know that every adult who comes in contact with their child knows them personally and cares about them. Every adult who comes in contact with their child knows them personally and cares about them. Some of our kids, they come to us like Josh Ness did. They come with a growth mindset, and we have to help those kids continue that. We have to cultivate it and to help them continue to grow. But some of our kids come to school like I did, and they come with a fixed mindset. And it takes a trusted adult believing in them before they can believe in themselves. For some of our kids, it will take many trusted adults for many years before they can begin to believe in themselves. And we all know this, but kids don't always play nice in the sandbox. Some of them are going to learn to sneak out of school and go to the home market. Some of them might even throw super balls at the wall. Love them anyway. Believe in them anyway. Set high expectations for them, but make sure they know that you're going to partner with them to meet those high expectations. Guys, when it's all said and done, our job is to make a positive difference in the lives of every child and every family that comes to Worthington schools. It won't always be easy. And I can tell you, it will almost never be easy, but it will be worth it. My dream for this year, and really for every year, is that tomorrow, when we welcome 9,700 or so kids to our campuses, that those students know that the adults in their school believe in them, that they believe they can be successful, and they will do everything possible to help them be successful. That's our job, right? Set high expectations for kids. Make sure they know that you believe they can reach those high expectations. Make sure they know that you're going to partner with them and that you really care about them. Jan Fish and Joe Romine changed my life. And that's all I'm asking you to do. Go change somebody's life this year. Go change somebody's life. And if we do that, if we believe in them and we partner with them and they know we care about them, it might be the end of tomorrow night and your head's on the pillow and you're exhausted from the first day of school. Or maybe it's the end of the year or it's the end of your career. But you'll be able to look back and unquestionably you'll be able to say, it was worth it. It was worth it. Thank you for letting me talk to you this morning.